Video showing the plane registered to that mercenary leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, falling to earth from 28,000 feet. Behind it, a trail of smoke. Russian state TV reporting tonight that he was on board and he was killed in the crash. The plane plummeting, erupting into a fireball. 10 people in all on board. No one survived this.
That's right, Yevgeny Prigozhin, who was the leader of the Wagner mercenary group that staged a short-lived mutiny against the Russian military's top brass back in June, was one of the passengers on that plane that crashed outside of Moscow just Wednesday of this week. Now, all 10 people, as you heard, on board have died as a result of that plane crash. And we're getting some more detail into what intelligence officials here in the United States think happened here. But if you are suspicious of Vladimir Putin's potential role in this, you should be.
Of course.
Now, the plane that listed Prigozhin as a passenger left Moscow's airport on Wednesday at about 6 p.m. local time, and it was bound for St. Petersburg, to which I ask, what was he doing in Russia after staging a rebellion against Putin and his military? Like,
yeah,
insane, especially considering what we know about Vladimir Putin and the way that he has treated his political opponents, journalists who have not been so celebratory in their coverage of him. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
no,
wow.
mental. Look, he was definitely overconfident. There's no question about it. And I remember thinking, like, this guy's strolling around way too much. And I thought, does he know something? I don't know. One, he's the leader of a mercenary army, and one that's brutal and awful and has robbed Africa blind, let alone what he did in Ukraine, and has made apparently billions in post-Soviet Russia through basically, mob-like activities, etc. So I'm like, maybe he's in charge. I don't know. Maybe he's stronger than Putin. Maybe he's got guys inside the Russian military, because this doesn't make sense. He's flaunting himself, walking around like he doesn't have a care in the world. Well, it turns out, no, simpler explanation, overconfident.
So the 7 passengers that were listed included Prigozhin and also some of his lieutenants, including Wagner's top commander, Dmitry Utkin. It also listed 3 crew members in addition to the 7. Now, earlier today, American and other Western officials said an explosion on the plane likely brought down the aircraft on Wednesday, killing all passengers aboard. Based on preliminary intelligence reports, a definitive conclusion had not been reached at that point, but an explosion is the leading theory of what caused the plane to crash. And then later today, the explosion was confirmed by a US intelligence official who spoke to the press. They claim that the West believes that this was an intentional explosion for, I think, obvious reasons, right?
We don't have to discuss that.
I know.
Of course it was intentional, and of course Putin shot it out of the sky. I mean, was there another leader who has Stinger missiles firing at a plane inside Russia?
Okay, wait, hold on though, because there's a disagreement, right? Because US officials aren't saying that a missile shot it down. US officials are actually pouring cold water on that. They actually disagree with that theory. But actually, I want to go to, so American satellite intelligence did not detect a missile launch, and there is no other evidence of a surface-to-air weapon that took out the plane. But to your point, Cenk, there have been some other individuals, including former members of the United States military, who have said that they believe, based on what they saw in the wreckage, that it was shot down by a missile. I don't know what the truth is. This is above my pay grade, but nonetheless, let's take a look at the video.
Video circulating online from the crash site showing what appears to be puncture marks in the wreckage. Experts saying this points to the likelihood of a missile strike, not a bomb blast.
If it had been a bomb on board, we would have seen deformation that would have been expanding out of the aircraft. Right now, we're seeing the puncture holes that are a signature of a surface-to-air or an air-to-air missile impacting that aircraft.
So the US intelligence community apparently disagrees with that. The explosion could have been caused by a bomb or other device planted on the aircraft, though there have been some other theories floating around, including, I've never heard this phrase before in this context, but adulterated fuel, which sounds like it could be fun, but it's not. So that's also being explored. So after months of increasingly caustic criticism of the Russian military leadership's campaign in Ukraine, Prigozhin led a short-lived revolt against the top brass in June. The brief mutiny, the most dramatic and public challenge to Putin's rule in decades, was diffused. A deal was announced by the Kremlin to end hostilities, and Wagner forces were allowed to either sign up with the Russian military or move to Belarus, a close Russian ally. And I do want to note that Vladimir Putin has issued his condolences, and I want to give you a sense of what kind of condolences he's into, especially when it comes to someone who tried to lead a rebellion against him. He said, quote, "This was a person with a complicated fate. He made some serious mistakes in life, but he also achieved necessary results." Jesus.
Heartwarming. He seems really broken up about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and he did what I think were little jabs about how Prigozhin had some questionable activities in Africa. I don't know that he meant it as questionable, because they're all profiting off of all the things that this mercenary army was doing. But there's one giant question still left. By the way, look, whether it was an internal bomb or a missile that shot it down or anything else, it doesn't matter. It happened inside Russia, from Moscow to St. Petersburg. That was the flight. The Germans didn't do it, the Taiwanese didn't do it. It was obviously the Russian military that did it. If it wasn't the Russian military, then we got a bigger problem, because there's a foreign army inside Russia, and that could be a disaster. Now, of course it was, of course. One of my favorite things was in one of the articles, they're like, yet Putin was celebrating the Soviet army's victory over Nazi Germany hundreds of miles away in a different town. Yeah, I didn't think he actually shot the Stinger missile himself.
No, it's hilarious.
Okay, like why does that matter? Okay.
I love how they're trying to like drum up an alibi for Putin.
Totally.
Yeah.
There's another great line from Blinken, which is shocking. But anyway, although Putin is the only guy who might think about it and be like, maybe I get on horseback, take shirt off, fire it myself.
Totally.
Okay, I jump in it. Anyways, Anthony Blinken said NATO has an open door policy and Russia has an open windows policy. So I'd be careful if I was Prigozhin.
That is a good quote.
Okay, yes, and he said that earlier, and unfortunately he was proven right. Now, to maybe the most relevant part of the story, which is, yes, but how is the Wagner Group going to respond? So there's a couple of different possibilities here. So you've got not only Prigozhin, but a couple of his top lieutenants are dead now in that plane crash. So is there a strong leader still left in that mercenary group? Here's 4 possibilities. One, they just melt away because they're like, we're not, Putin ain't nothing to mess with.
That would be ideal.
Yeah. Number 2 is they decide, screw it, let's go back into the Russian military and do our damage there.
That's not ideal.
Not ideal. They're again, don't have any sympathy for Prigozhin.
Zero.
These guys were the worst of them. And just because he turned on Putin doesn't make him a good guy at all, or anybody in the Wagner Group. 3 is they just go, screw all of this. Let's just go back to being mercenaries. Let's go back to Africa and keep the robbery going and make tons of money, and don't get involved in Ukraine, Russia, or anything else along those lines. The 4th possibility is the most interesting and dangerous one, which is they're like, okay, well, now it's our turn. And a video was released today with masked men saying they're in the Wagner Group, saying, expect us. So that might be next.
Well, we'll see how it all plays out. But clearly Putin had held a grudge against Prigozhin. He considered it a massive betrayal. So if the members of the Wagner Group are directing their ire and potential violence toward Putin, it's definitely based on his behavior in the past and the statements he's put out in regard to Prigozhin following the rebellion. So
one last thing.
Yeah.
As I read that statement from what remains of the Wagner Group, which is, by the way, the great majority of them, they just lost 3 leaders. Everyone else remains. So the army's still there. We just don't know if they have a strong leader left and a smart leader left. But I thought, well, maybe that's why Prigozhin was overconfident, because he had a backup plan and thought Putin's not going to do it, because if he does it, we're going to counterstrike in a way that puts him in actual danger. And so, but we don't know. I have no idea what the capabilities of the Wagner Group is inside Russia. But I will say, if you think this is over and that you're sure that they're not going to strike back, I think you're definitely wrong. There's certainly a percentage chance that they're going to strike back, and then it's going to be an incredible mess inside Russia. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.